Ever catch yourself staring out the train window and, kind of wondering about the people on board, the lives behind those passing carriages?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, today we are diving into the fascinating world of, get this, train attendants.
Oh, cool.
And before you picture, just someone pushing a snack cart down the aisle, let me tell you, it is so much more than that.
Right, right.
We've got RoleCatcher's guide as our roadmap on this deep dive, so buckle up.
It's true. This guide goes way deeper than I expected. It's like about so much more than just handing out coffee and pretzels.
Oh, okay. So then what are we really talking about here? What's a train attendant actually responsible for?
A train attendant, they're responsible for the whole passenger experience. I mean, from the second someone steps on board to that final, like, goodbye and thanks for traveling with us.
So I'm hearing, like, serious multitasking skills here.
Oh, yeah.
What does that look like, actually, in practice?
Okay, so picture this. You're welcoming passengers, answering questions about, routes and destinations, making announcements, making sure the carriages are clean.
Yeah.
And, yes, of course, serving meals and drinks. But it's more than that. You're, like, a problem solver. You're a source of information. You're the face of the journey for every single passenger.
Wow. It's like being a customer service superhero, a concierge on wheels. That takes, I don't know, a blend of skills I wouldn't have thought of right away.
That's what really surprised me, diving into this RoleCatcher guide.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, every train company has their own training, right?
Right.
But the core skills, they're surprisingly transferable.
Okay, interesting.
Communication is key. That's a given.
Mhm.
But you also need critical thinking, like on your feet, problem solving, even a bit of psychology.
Hold on, psychology,
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah.
Why is that so crucial for a train attendant?
Well, you got to think about it. You're dealing with, like, all sorts of people,
Yeah.
from all walks of life, and often in a pretty confined space for hours on end. You need those, how do I put it, those fine-tuned people skills,
Yeah.
reading the room, so to speak.
I like that.
And actually, RoleCatcher shares this, like, anecdote about a train attendant who used humor to, kind of diffuse this really tense situation
Oh, no.
with the delayed train. Yeah. They actually ended up turning this group of, like, frustrated passengers into a carriage full of laughter.
Wow.
That's the power of psychology in action.
That's wild. It really makes you realize how much impact a train attendant can actually have on someone's trip. I mean, they can turn a frustrating delay into a positive memory.
Totally. You're not just, along for the ride. You are literally shaping the entire journey.
Right.
And it's more than managing emotions. It's about safety and making sure everyone feels comfortable, too.
Right, because safety on a train is, like, paramount. So it's a delicate balance, creating that good atmosphere, but also being ready for anything.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, those quick thinking skills really come in handy.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't just need to stay calm. You also need to know all the safety protocols like the back of your hand.
Speaking of knowing things like the back of your hand, this might sound like a silly question, but I'm actually really curious. What about, like, the technology involved in being a train attendant these days?
Oh, yeah.
Are we talking, like, walkie-talkies and printed timetables, or is there a whole digital side to this?
Get ready to be surprised.
Okay.
Gone are the days of just, punch cards and those paper schedules, those big, thick things.
Right.
RoleCatcher really highlights how much technology is, like, completely transforming the experience of train travel these days.
Interesting.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Onboard Wi-Fi, you've got digital entertainment systems, even apps that passengers use to just, like, order food straight to their seat.
Wow. Okay, so train attendants are on the front lines of all this. They're not just managing, the human element anymore. They're navigating all these tech tools. That's got to add a whole other layer of, like, complexity to the role.
Totally. And it's only going to get, like, more and more important
Right.
as technology keeps evolving. I mean, imagine, like, virtual reality tours during your trip, or even AI-powered concierge services, things like that.
Oh, wow.
Train attendants would need to be comfortable, troubleshooting tech issues,
Mm-hmm.
guiding passengers through these new digital landscapes.
So it's almost like you need to be a tech support whiz and, this hospitality guru all at the same time.
Yeah.
Talk about a dynamic skill set. Okay, so we've talked about, like, the tech, the passenger comfort, all that. But what about the bigger picture? How's the job market looking for someone who wants to be a train attendant? Is this, like, a career path with legs, so to speak?
Okay, so good news first. RoleCatcher says that the job outlook for train attendants is actually really stable,
Oh,
which is great
yeah.
because, while some industries are really feeling like that pressure from automation, robots and all that,
Yeah.
the human touch is something you just can't replace in roles like this.
Yeah.
People want that interaction, that personal connection, especially when they're traveling.
That's reassuring. But let's be honest, with planes and those high-speed trains becoming more popular all the time, are traditional train routes still in demand? Or is that fading out?
That's where it gets interesting, I think.
Okay.
While it's true that those, faster ways to travel are definitely popular,
Mm.
there's something about a traditional train journey that people love. And I think that'll always be there.
Yeah.
It's about, slowing down a little, enjoying the scenery, actually getting to talk to your fellow passengers.
Right.
You can't really do that at 30,000 feet or like whizzing by at 200 miles an hour.
There's just something romantic about a classic train journey. Like, it's a chance to unplug, unwind, and actually enjoy the experience.
Exactly. And it's something that people want more and more these days,
Yeah.
like with our busy lives. Plus, there's this big push for sustainable travel, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And trains, they're just a much greener option, especially compared to planes. They have a way smaller carbon footprint.
Yeah.
So it's a way to explore the world, but like be mindful of your impact.
It sounds like, with all this talk of sustainability and people wanting that more classic travel experience, it sounds like there's a surprising amount of demand for this role.
Yeah, definitely.
Which leads to my next question, which is career progression. Like, if you start as a train attendant, are you, kind of stuck on that same track, so to speak?
Right.
Or are there, like, opportunities to move up, within the industry, within the company, all that?
Honestly, that's what I think is so cool about this career path. There are a lot of different routes to explore,
Oh, okay.
It's not just a dead end. So you might start as, say, like a junior attendant, right?
Yeah. Learning everything, getting that experience with, passenger service. But from there, you could become a senior attendant, maybe even mentor new hires,
Okay.
handle more, what's the word, like complicated passenger requests, or even manage the onboard cafe or restaurant, if there is one.
So there's room to grow within the train attendant role itself. But what about, like, branching out completely?
Yeah, totally.
Could being a train attendant be a way to get into other parts of the travel industry or the transportation industry?
For sure. RoleCatcher actually highlights a bunch of examples of, former train attendants who use their skills to get different jobs.
Oh, wow.
Like, some of them went into customer service management, right? So instead of just on one train, they're overseeing passenger relations for, like, a whole train line.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Right. Others went into training and development, which makes sense.
They use their experience to teach the next group of train attendants. And then some people even ended up in, like, operations and logistics, so they're managing timetables, routes, making sure everything runs smoothly, but behind the scenes.
Wow, that's way more diverse than I would have thought. It's like the key is to see this job not as like the final stop, but as like a starting point for your career. You could go in a lot of directions.
Totally. And don't forget about, like, the stuff you can't really measure,
Right.
The people you meet, the places you get to see, becoming a really good problem solver. Those are things you can take with you no matter what job you end up in.
That's so true. So let's say someone listening is like ready to ditch their boring commute and, travel the rails for a living. What's the best way to impress those hiring managers to land that train attendant job?
Okay, so RoleCatcher's big thing is that you got to nail that interview.
Makes sense.
And that means showing them you've got the skills, both, the practical stuff and those people skills.
Yeah.
They want to hear about times you've worked directly with customers, especially how you dealt with, like, tricky situations. Think back to a time you, like, calmed someone down who was upset or anticipated what a customer needed before they even asked, or really went above and beyond to make someone's day.
Oh, I like that.
Those stories will really show them you can handle this job.
So it's almost like storytelling is your secret weapon in the interview. But it's not just about sharing those anecdotes, right? There's like a technical side too, I'm guessing.
Exactly. Be ready to talk about, like, safety rules,
Yeah.
what to do in an emergency, and your comfort level with the technology they use on board.
Right.
Because remember, they're not just hiring someone who's friendly. They need someone who's going to keep everyone safe.
So it's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Warm and welcoming, but also like you know what you're doing and you're professional.
Yeah. It's a balance for sure. But, on a more helpful note, RoleCatcher has some seriously awesome tools for getting ready for interviews.
Okay. Like
They have, like practice questions you can try out, and even this AI thing that gives you feedback on your answers, which is
Wow.
kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can practice and, go into that interview feeling good.
It's like having a secret weapon, like we were saying. And speaking of secret weapons, RoleCatcher itself sounds super helpful for anyone thinking about this career. The guide, the interview tips, everything.
Totally agree. It's a really, really useful resource, especially if you're serious about, like, making a career out of this.
Well, as we pull into the station on this deep dive into the world of train attendants,
Oh,
I have one last question for you. What's like the most important piece of advice you'd give to someone thinking about this job?
oh, that's easy. Don't forget that, like, real human connection is powerful. In a world where everything's getting automated,
Yeah.
it's that personal touch that makes all the difference when you're traveling.
Yeah.
So bring your empathy, be kind, and show them you actually like connecting with people. And you'll not only do well in this job, you'll probably make a difference in the lives of the people you meet along the way.
That's such a great point to end on. And on that note, we've reached the end of our journey for today. A huge thank you to our expert for sharing all these insights, and to you, our listeners, for coming along on this fascinating deep dive into the world of train attendants.